Today we are out on the Huosung 250. It's the XV, what I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that, but it's the R version, and it is a 2017. It is a 250cc motor. It has some pretty cool features for an inexpensive, call it inexpensive, I think they're about $5,000. It has an underslung exhaust, which is lightweight. The wheels has pretty lightweight wheels on it. Inverted forks. It has a single disc front rotor. It has LED headlights, I believe, and a really cool looking fairing. It is a pretty lightweight motorcycle. I love the swing arm on this thing. Let's take a look, a little bit closer look from the other side here. And a lot of these less expensive motorcycles, they really chintzy out on the swing arm. You'll see this kind of metal thing like the Honda CBR, even the Kawasaki and all that. This one is absolutely fantastic unit. You would expect to see on some of the 600cc super bikes. And it has an adjustable suspension as far as the ride height or preload adjustment for the rear shock, but that is it. There's no dampening adjustments or anything like that. Of course, that would outweigh the price of the bike. These bikes have really a pretty good reputation. Brakes are pretty solid on them. This one, they had this is the GD, I believe, the GD250, and they had a, I'm forgetting what the other one was. It's something like that, a GT250R. The GT250R was a twin cylinder. This is a single cylinder 250. Then was a twin cylinder 250. The GT250R was a little bit larger, had a little bit larger fairing, a bigger gas tank, a lot heavier, but it fit larger riders pretty well. This one does fit large riders. It's 6 foot tall. I have no problem sitting on it. The footrests or the rear sets are adjustable, and they put spacers in here for so you can shorten them up if you're a shorter rider, have them a little bit longer if you're a taller rider. And I have those set in the taller setting. And let's see here. Let's take a look at the front of the bike here really quick. I love the way the look of these the headlights and that fairing just look really aggressive, super cool. The LED lights on it, blinkers on it. It's got a little tiny storage compartment in the back. That rear seat comes off. Pretty good mirrors. They're in pretty close. They look like they're out pretty far, but they're in pretty close, so you do see your elbows in the mirrors a little bit. It's the smaller of the two bikes that they made, but this one is a little bit more advanced, has a better suspension setup, a little bit more stiffer chassis, and anyways, here's our electronics display. It revs out to 9,500 RPM. At least that's where the indicator is there on the dash. And go ahead and start it up. This one has 290 miles on it. Not many at all. And I think we'll take it out for a ride. We're going to do a couple things, because how does a 250 do on the back roads? That's where we are now. And then how's that bike going to do on the freeway? So we're going to do both those. We'll do a little bit of back roads here. This is the roughest back road I could find, because I want to try that out. We'll do that really quick. Then we're going to do a smoother back road, and then I'll take it out on the freeway and see how it does. I'll give you my opinion as we go. All right, let's take it out on this road here. See what that's like. Not burn out in the... All right. Power goes, it is a 250. Pretty good power for a 250 single cylinder, but it is not as powerful as, say, the Ninja 400, or even probably the Ninja 300 is pretty close. I would say it's faster than the Ninja 250 by quite a bit, but not quite, maybe not quite as fast as the Ninja 300. And definitely slower than the 400. It has a 6-speed transmission. We're cruising at 72 miles an hour right now. and that's no problem at all. I'd say as far as like, so this is a rough road, and I'd say it's sprung pretty tight, or, you know, it's really kind of set up. This one's really kind of set up for like a track bike, so it's a little bit stiffer. The other one was a little more flush, so I can feel the bumps pretty well on the through the suspension here. Nothing too bad, but I can certainly feel the bumps. It's not a luxury smooth ride. It's a stiffer ride. All right, so that is on the rough road there, and then I think what we'll do is we're going to take it out to some other back roads where it's nice and smooth, and I'll catch you guys up right there. Got ourselves out to some smooth, twisty roads. Let's take a little ride on these, and then we're going to do a little 0 to 60-ish or whatever that is, and see how quick this bike is. And there's 60. So, you know, it's not a super bike, but it's pretty quick for a 250. I'm going to bring it on up here into 6th gear and cruising at 65 miles an hour at about 6,000 RPM. It's pretty smooth. Let's talk a little bit about buying a Korean motorcycle. So, and this will kind of reflect on other types too. This is not a Chinese motorcycle, it's Korean. And when you look at buying a Korean motorcycle, you think of a couple of things. Let's see, where am I going to get it serviced? Where am I going to get parts? And is it going to be reliable? And because maybe the price is a little bit lower, and in this case the MSRP really isn't that much lower, but you're able to pick these bikes up, or you were able to pick these bikes up pretty inexpensively. So about half of the MSRP. Parts, where am I going to get parts? Well, you're going to have to buy parts online, and I found quite a few sources. You can buy them directly from Huosung. Huosung was a parts manufacturer for Suzuki, and so they really have readily available parts for anywhere in the world. There's a place in Los Angeles, California. They're called YGoStock.com, YGoStock.com, and they have parts for these bikes on hand on the shelf. They charge nearly double what Huosung charges for those parts, which is still very reasonable, to be honest with you, and you can get them in a couple of days, so that's really nice. And they basically have every part you need for this bike, from, let's say, a handle, a mirror, a foot peg, body panels, everything. So that's really nice to be able to have that. If you need your oil filters, you can order them from them. Okay, so that covers parts. Parts are pretty easy, actually. Just order them online. The next part would be service. And this is kind of the problem area of buying a bike that's not a manufacturer, that is local near you, and that is you're going to be hard pressed to find a OEM service department like you would for BMW, Kawasaki, Honda, Yamaha, to go get your bike serviced. So you either need to do it yourself, which is very simple, but if you don't want to do it yourself, then you need an independent shop that'll work on the motorcycle for you. So that's number 2, service. You're going to have to go with an independent shop or do that service work yourself. And the service work is really simple on these bikes, but you know, some people don't like to do their own work, and I understand that. What else? Reliability. Reliability is actually on, so this is a 2017. These bikes have been around for quite a while. And I'm going to talk about reliability once we get up over here. We're headed up this hill here, and I want to kind of get an idea of this bike's handling. So we're going to do that first. And here we go, headed into the corners. Let's see how the bike handles. It's really, really lightweight handling, so it turns into the corners really fast. Real smooth, super easy to transition this bike. Bike is very, very light handling, so for the track, this thing would just be a weapon. Just let's compare it to a couple other bikes, and I have a bike that I would compare this bike to. But let's start with the Ninja 300. This bike out-handles the Ninja 300 as far as it turns much quicker in. It's lighter feeling. And then we get to the Ninja 400. And the Ninja 400 does not turn in quite as quick as this bike as well. It's kind of like the Ninja 300, but the Ninja 400 handles high-speed corners a lot better. It's a lot stabler of a bike because it turns in a little slower. It has a little bit longer rake on it. But this bike, for what it is, really turns into those corners well. So if you're on the track, this thing would do fantastic. So I like that handling. We're going to slow it down here a little bit. All right, let's talk about the, let's see, what was it? It was reliability. So the motors on these bikes are really pretty excellent, and I'd say since like 2009 or something like that, where they really kind of upped their game and made some better motors. They're utilizing for their twin cylinder engine that was made for Suzuki. Super reliable. This bike, I'm not sure who this engine was made for, but it tends to be a very reliable engine. And I'm going to talk about the parts that you'd find that are not reliable, or at least on these bikes that would be suspect. And it comes down to some of the switches and things like that. And so the throttle has a long throw, a little bit too long. Like if you were to take this bike to the track, you'd want to replace the throttle handle with something a little shorter, because it has a long throw to it. And for a beginner rider, that's great. But for an expert rider, you just want a quicker throw throttle. That's one thing that I would end up replacing if I kept the bike myself. I love the fact that they put on a adjustable brake lever. The brakes on this are fantastic. For the track, I would replace the brake pads. That's all I would need to replace. The brake pads is something that can take more heat, just because these are street pads. But the things that I found that were suspect, because I kind of took the bikes apart to check them out, and you know, what's the first thing to go? It's these little switches like this one right in here, which is a brake switch to tell you when, or not a brake switch, a clutch switch that tells you when the clutch is in, so that they can do some safety things to make sure that you have to have the clutch in to start the motorcycle. And those are, to me, they seem like they're added on sort of after the fact type of thing. They have the same thing with the kickstand switch, the gear indicator switches, all those little tiny switches for those. They seem to be, you know, they work, but they don't seem to be as high, the highest quality parts. The rest of it really seems pretty good. I can't find fault in anything else. I mean, the motor works great. The kickstand, you know, you look at kickstands on bikes that are of the same, like a Ninja 300 and all that. This has a really nice kickstand. It's mounted very securely. Things like that are really nice. Like I said, with the swing arm, it's got a really nice swing arm on it. The components seem to be pretty top quality. Frame looks like it's great. As far as the quality of the welds, all that looks good. Rims look great. I know these rims, I believe, were made for more of a high performance option for Suzuki. Was my understanding. That's what I thought. When you look at the paint on this bike, it's fantastic. It has this metal flake, or maybe like a what do you call it? I don't know if you can see that. There's a little bit of a flake in it. It's kind of a pearlescent white, I guess, is the color to call it. So I found that the reliability of these bikes great. The engine, running gear and all that seem to be great. It's those little tiny switches that may need to be replaced if they were to go bad or something like that. We've had a couple of them where the indicator switch for the kickstand's not working, so you don't know when the bike doesn't know when the kickstand's up or down, and so or something like that, or it doesn't tell you when, or won't tell you what gear it's in, things like that. We've seen that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and now we're going to head out to the freeway and see what this thing's like cruising down the freeway. Let's go ahead and get on the freeway. Let's see how this. We'll go down a few exits and take it out on the freeway and let it stretch its legs a little bit. and see how it does. This is a pretty good place to test that out. It's a pretty a fast section of freeway. Most people go pretty quick if you actually get on the freeway with all this traffic. But it looks like it's gonna, I can get out there in the fast lane and get moving. Right here it's going slow. Hello. Good to have that normal traffic situation anyways. It's been doing pretty good. I'm kind of impressed with this bike. We can get out from these people here. Let's see, we'll go ahead and move on out. No problem keeping up with traffic, that's for sure. We're already at cruising at 80 miles an hour. I think we could get out in the fast lane if I can get over there. Try to get it down to the mid 70s, 75, just to see what that's like. That's pretty good. I'd say it's 80, kind of, you know, a little bit, you can feel it in the drift and stuff, a little bit more vibration, and that's probably really the difference between having the V-twin versus the single cylinder. I'm at 85. I can feel the vibration after a while. You know, it's a bit of vibration in the grip. It's not uncomfortable, but the GT250, which is twin cylinder, is a lot smoother on the freeway as far as, you know, vibrations. But this, for short commutes, I think would be just fine. It's a really lightweight motorcycle, and I would say not the best as far as commuting on the freeway, just because it's a little light. You kind of want something a little heavier on the freeway, just because you can get blown around by traffic. I didn't feel any there, but I could just imagine having this light of a bike and then having wind and big semis and all of that. So yeah, I'd say a heavier bike for the freeway, but for a quick commute down the freeway, maybe, you know, 20-30 miles would be just fine. I wouldn't want to go to LA on this bike, I don't think. But the back roads would be great. Highway 1 would be fantastic. And for playing around on the streets and back roads and windy roads, it is absolutely perfect. I'd say I'm thinking it does really well. It's definitely that sport bike feel. Leaned over. Alright, well, hey guys, that is the GD250R from Huosung. This is a 2017 model. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this little review. This is actually my son's motorcycle, so I just borrowed it for the day just because I felt like riding something a little different today. And it's a lot of fun. You get a kind of a kick out of riding it. He only put 200 something miles on this bike, so anyways, I appreciate you guys watching the video, and if you haven't done so, you hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you later.